and welcome to Introduction to Linguistics. Again, this is lecture number 3. This is Dr. Ala Hussein Al-Hams, and today we will be dealing with phonology as a branch of linguistics. We will be starting by defining the word phonology. Of course, phonology is the branch of linguistics that studies the sound systems of languages. Phonology is the study of how speech sounds form patterns. It focuses on how sounds function within a particular language or languages, and the rules that govern their combination, distribution, and organization. Phonology examines not only the physical sounds known as phonetic sounds, but also their abstract mental representations. There are some key concepts in phonology include phonemes, allophones, minimal pairs, syllable structure, prosody, and phonological rules. We will be dealing with these concepts in details in the following slides. The first item is phoneme. What is a phoneme? Phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in language that can distinguish one word from another. It doesn't carry meaning by itself, but when combined with other phonemes, it can form words and convey meaning. Phonemes are abstract representations of speech sounds and are a fundamental concept in phonology, the study of the sound system of languages. Examples of phonemes in English, we have the consonant phonemes like p, b, t, d, and so on and so forth. We have the vowel phonemes, including the E, like as in beat, and the short E as in bit, A in bat, U in boot, and so on. Phoneme example in context. The difference between the word ship and sip lies in the phonemes sh, the sh, and s, the s sound. These two phonemes change the meaning of the word entirely. Now, what is an allophone? An allophone is a variation of a phoneme that does not change the meaning of a word. Allophones are different pronunciations of the same phoneme, influenced by factors like surrounding sounds, position in a word, or regional accents. These variations occur naturally in a speech and are typically not perceived as different sounds by native speakers of the language. Examples of allophones. We have the allophones of P in English. In the word pat, the P is aspirated, which means it is pronounced with a burst of air or with an additional puff of the air, and is represented as p, ph. In the word spin, the P is unaspirated, i.e., there is no burst of air, and is represented as the simple P. Both of these are allophones of the phoneme P or P that do not change the meaning of the word, but they do not change the meaning of the word. 2, we have the allophones of T in English. In the word tap, the T is aspirated. In the word stop, the T is unaspirated. In the word bara, in American English, the T is pronounced as a flap R. So instead of butter, it's pronounced as bara. These are all allophones of the phoneme T or T, and while they differ in sound, they do not affect the word's meaning. 3, we have allophones of L in English. In the word lip, the L is a clear L, pronounced with the tongue tip of the alveolar ridge. In the word full, the L is a dark L, pronounced with the back of the tongue raised. Both are allophones of the phoneme L, but occur in different environments without altering them. Function of sounds. The primary function of sounds in a language is to convey meaning. Sounds achieve this through phonemes and meaning distinction, Phonemes are the smallest sound units, as we said before, that can distinguish meaning. For example, in English, p and b differentiate words like pat and bat. Each language has its own set of phonemes that speakers use to encode and decode meaning. Second, we have rule of in communication. Sounds work together to form morphemes, sounds, words, and sentences, creating a structure that allows humans to communicate complex ideas. Third, we have signal and structure. Sounds provide cues for word boundaries, stress, and intonation, helping listeners process speech efficiently. Patterning of sounds. The patterning of sounds refers to how they are organized and interact within a language. Key aspects include phonotactics, syllable structure, allophonic variation. Phonotactics are rules that determine which sound combinations are permissible in a language. For example, in English, n, g, as in sing, can occur at the end of words but not at the beginning. Syllable structure patterns like the arrangement of consonants presented as C and vowels presented as V within syllables. For example, consonant vowel or CV, consonant vowel consonant or CVC, and consonant consonant vowel CCV in English. We have allophonic variation, systematic patterns where a single phoneme is realized differently depending on context. For example, the aspirated t in top versus the unaspirated t in stop. Prosodic patterns, rhythmic and melodic patterns such as stress, tone, and intonation, which vary across languages and influence meaning and sentence structure. Processes in sound change. We have many processes like assimilation, deletion, insertion, or epenthesis. We'll be dealing with them in details in the following slides. Here we have the rule of phonology. Rule of or rules of phonology are systematic principles that govern how sounds are organized, combined, and altered in a given language. These rules explain the predictable patterns of sound usage and transformation in speech. Below are the main types of phonological rules. So these are some of the phonological rules that we will be dealing with in details, including assimilation, dissimilation, insertion, deletion, metathesis, vowel reduction, flapping, gliding, neutralization, stress assignment, and phonotactic constraints. Let's deal firstly with assimilation. Assimilation, when a sound becomes more like a neighboring sound in terms of one or more features. Example, in English, the prefix in changes to match the place of articulation of the following consonants. In plus possible becomes impossible, here bilabial. M aligns with P. Aligns with means assimilates to. In plus logical or becomes illogical, here the alveolar N aligns with L. Second, dissimilation. Dissimilation when two nearby sounds become less similar to each other to enhance contrast. Example, in some English dialects, fifth may be pronounced as fifth to simplify articulation by avoiding repetition of the fricative f. Insertion or insertion epenthesis. Definition: an extra sound is added to a word, often to make pronunciation easier. Example, in English, a vowel is sometimes inserted to break up difficult consonant clusters. For example, the word athlete becomes athlete, athlete. Here we have deletion. Deletion is when a sound is omitted from a word, often to simplify speech. Example, in casual English speech, friendship is pronounced as friendship, so the D here is deleted. Metathesis, the order of sounds is rearranged. In some dialects, ask is pronounced as ax. Vowel reduction, when a full vowel becomes a schwa or another less distinct sound in unstressed syllables. Example in English, photograph becomes photograph. Reduced vowels in unstressed syllables. Flapping, a T or D sound between two vowels is pronounced as a quick tap R, common in American English. For example, butter or butter becomes butter. Gliding, a liquid sound consonant L or R or L or R is pronounced by glide. The W and Y in certain contexts. Example, in child language, rabbit is pronounced as wabbit. Neutralization definition. It is a distinction between sounds is lost in certain environments. Example, in German, final obstruents are devoiced. For example, rad, which means wheel in English, is pronounced rat instead of rad. Stress assignment. Rules determine which syllable in a word receives primary stress. Example, in English, stress patterns often depend on word type. For example, in nouns, contrast, stress on the first syllable, contrast, while in verbs, the stress is on the second syllable, contract. So, contract and contract. Phonotactic constraints definition rules that govern permissible sound sequences within a language. Example, in English, a word cannot begin with the cluster ing, even though ing is a valid sound as in sing. The function of phonological rules. First, ensuring pronounceability and ease of articulation. Second, promoting comprehensibility. 3, preserving phonemic contrasts. 4, adapting sounds to phonotactic constraints. 5, facilitating language-specific patterns. Then, accounting for allophonic variation. 7th, supporting prosody and intonation. 8th, explaining phonological processes in connected speech. And 9th, facilitating language acquisition. Prosodic phonology. What is prosodic phonology? It is the branch of phonology that studies the suprasegmental features of speech, such as stress, intonation, rhythm, tone, and phrasing, unlike segmental phonology, which focuses on individual sounds like consonants and vowels. Prosodic phonology examines larger units of speech and how these features influence meaning and structure. Features of prosodic phonology. We have stress, intonation, and rhythm. Stress, the prominence or emphasis placed on a syllable or word. Example, in English, stress can change word meaning. Here, record, noun versus record, verb. Stress patterns help mark important words in sentences. I want the blue car, not the red one. Intonation. Definition: the variation in pitch across a sentence or phrase. Function: it signals sentence type, example, declarative or interrogative. It expresses emotions and attitudes. Examples: rising intonation for yes, no question, are you coming? Falling intonation for statements, I am coming. Rhythm: the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in speech. Types: stress-timed languages, example, English and German. Stressed syllables occur at roughly equal intervals with variable lengths of unstressed syllables. Syllable-timed languages, example, Spanish and French. Here all syllables are approximately equal duration, have approximately equal duration. Mora-timed languages, example Japanese, timing here is based on mora subunits of syllables. Functions of prosodic phonology. First, making sentence structure. Helps listeners parse syntax and identify clause or phrase boundaries. Example, intonation patterns distinguish between let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma. Distinguishing meaning, prosodic features can change the meaning of an utterance. Example, in neutral, you are coming versus a sarcastic, you are coming. Expressing emotions and attitudes. Pitch, tone, and rhythm convey speaker's feelings. Example, excitement, doubt, sarcasm. Fourth, facilitating communication in context. Prosody highlights focus and new versus given information. Example, in I want the blue car, not the red one, stress emphasis on the important word. Language-specific rules. Different languages use prosody differently, creating unique patterns. Example, rising intonation signals questions in English, but not necessarily in all languages. So here we come to the end of our lecture. Thank you very much. And again, this document will be attached with references to the official website. Thank you very much.